Okay, subtraction with renaming. This is where we're going to have to borrow from the whole number. And if you'll remember, a whole number is when the numerator and the denominator are the same number. Okay, so it can be 8 over 8 equals 1 whole. 6 over 6 equals 1 whole. 37 over 37 equals 1 whole. So it doesn't matter what we're doing, but we're going to borrow. We're going to borrow from the whole number and make it a whole number in fraction form. Okay? All right, so we're going to start by doing the same thing we've been doing. First, we're going to find the LCM. Okay, 5 and 2. I know that the common denominator is going to be 10. The LCM is 10. Made it the denominator. Okay, step 2. Make equivalent fractions. Okay, so 2/5 equals something over 10. So I know 5 equals 10 when I multiply it by 2. So then I multiply the numerator. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 and 1/2. 2 and 1/2 equals blank over 10. 1/2 equals blank over 10. I know that 2 is equal to 10 when I multiply it by 5. 2 times 5 is 10. So then I'm going to multiply the 1 times 5. 1 times 5 is 5. All right, so here's where we're going to talk about regrouping. We made our equivalent fractions. Step 3, we're going to borrow 1 from the whole number and make it a fraction whole number. Okay, so pay close attention. Okay, so I'm going to borrow 7. It's going to become a 6. And then because my denominator is 10, I'm going to add 10 over 10 to this fraction. And only that fraction. So 10 plus 4 is 14 over 10. So I added fractions with like denominators, right? Now I'm going to take this fraction and move it over so that's lined up. It's going to stay the same. I'm not changing the bottom fraction. All I'm doing is borrowing from the top whole number, making it into a whole number written in fraction form. And because my denominator is 10, 10 over 10 is a whole number. So then I add it to the 4 to make the top number more. So now I can take 14 and subtract 5. Okay? So 14 minus 5 is 9. The denominator is 10. Now I subtract my whole numbers. 6 minus 2. 4 and 9 twelfths. So borrow 1 from the whole number. Make it a fraction whole number. Step 4. Add the fraction whole number to the top fraction. Okay, so we added the fraction whole number to the top fraction to get a new fraction number. Step 5, subtract numerators. Fix the fraction if necessary. That means either reduce it or taboo it, but when you're subtracting, it won't be improper. And then 7, subtract the whole numbers. So there are your steps. I told you it's a little bit more involved, but it's not super difficult. Okay, so we're going to first find the LCM, just like what we've been doing. Make the LCM into the common denominator. 2, we're going to make equivalent fractions. Then we're going to borrow from the whole number and make it a fraction whole number based on whatever the denominator is. It will change every time. Watch in just a second where it's going to change again. Then we're going to add the fraction whole number to the top fraction, and then subtract the numerators, fix the fraction, and then subtract the whole numbers. So let's do 2 1/3 minus 1 5/6. Okay, I know 3 goes into 6, so that means 6 is my common denominator. I know 1/3 is equal to something over 6. I know 3 will equal 6 when I multiply it by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. All right, 5 over 6 equals something over 6. I know that 6 and 6 are the same number, so that means I'm just going to slide the 5 over. And these fractions are done. Now, I have 2, and I cannot take 5 away. You can't do it. So, just like with regular subtraction, we have to borrow. I'm going to borrow 1, and I'm going to move it over here. Okay? Now, in order to add, I have to have a fraction, and that fraction has to have a common denominator. So in this case, this time, the fraction is going to be 6 over 6. Makes one whole. Borrowed 1, brought it over here. Now I'm going to add 6 plus 2, and I get 8, and my denominator is 6. Okay, so it gave me an improper fraction, which is okay. And I'm going to move this fraction, 5 over 6, over here so it's lined up. 8 minus 5 is 3. The denominator is 6. Fix the fraction. I know 3 will go into 6. So I'm going to divide the top and bottom by 3. And I get 1/2. When I subtract the whole numbers, 1 minus 1 is 0. So that means my answer is just 1/2. Okay? Kind of involved, I said, but we'll get it. 4 1/8 minus 1 1/2. Common denominator. I know 2 and 8. I know 2 will go into 8 evenly. So that means 8 is going to be my denominator. 1 over 8 is equal to something over 8. Well, 8 and 8 are the same number. So that means the 1 has to stay the same. Okay. 1 over 2 equals something over 8. Well, 2 equals 8. And the only way for 2 to equal 8 is multiply it by 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So I have to multiply the numerator by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. So, done. All right. It's a subtraction problem. 1 minus 4. You cannot have 1 and take away 4. Okay, we've talked about that. It'll give you a negative number. So we don't do that in 5th grade. So you have to borrow. Just like with regular subtraction again. I'm going to borrow from the 4. It's going to become a 3. And I'm going to add. This time my denominator is 8. So for me to add a whole number, I have to add 8 over 8. So I'm going to add my numerators. 1 plus 8 equals 9. The denominator stays 8. Okay. This fraction, I'm just going to push it over so it's lined up. And then you're done with all of that information. 9 minus 4 is 5. The denominator is 8. 5 does not go into 8 evenly. So I'm done with that. Now I subtract my whole numbers. It's 3 minus 1. If I have 3 and I take 1 away, I have 2 left over. 2 5/8. Okay, we're going to do a couple more to make sure that we are kind of getting it. I promise this is not a grade, but it is good practice. Okay, 4 2/9 minus 3 1/3. 3 will go into 9, so that means 9 is going to be my common denominator. 2 over 9 equals something over 9. 9s are the same. So that means this is 2. 2/9 equals 2/9. That's an equivalent fraction. It didn't change. It's the same fraction. 1/3 equals something over 9. I know that 3 equals 9 when I multiply it by 3. So then I multiply the numerator by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay. 2 minus 3 does not work. If I have 2, I can't take 3 away. So I have to borrow. 4 becomes a 3. And I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to add. This time my denominator is 9. So to make a whole number with the same denominator, it has to be 9 over 9. Add your whole numbers. 9 plus 2, 11 over 9. We don't do anything with this fraction. All I'm doing is moving it over so it's lined up with my problem now. That's all I'm doing. I'm not changing it. I'm not doing anything to it except simply moving it over so my work lines up. That's all I'm doing. Okay, 11 minus 3 is 8. Denominator is 9. Now, 8 and 9 are close together, so there's nothing we can do to it. 3 minus 3 is 0, so we're done. My answer is 8 over 9. Okay, 7 3/5 minus 4 3/4. So we're going to look for a common denominator. If you need to. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 25. 24. 5, 10, 15, 20. Oh, there we go. Common denominator is going to be 20. So I'm going to make least common multiple is 20, so make it the least common denominator. All right, 3/5 equals something over 20. 5 equals 20 when I multiply it by 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 times 4 is 20. So in the numerator, I'd put times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. All right, 4 3/4 equals something over 20. So 4 equals 20 when I multiply it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then I multiply the numerator by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, just real quick, I should have said it earlier, but you see how I'm writing all my multiplications down to make my equivalent fractions? I know it sounds silly, but if you're still struggling, write it down. Because if you're not writing it down, you're not doing the steps, you're not understanding. You need to be writing these problems down and solving them with me as we go. That's the only way you're going to learn it, is to practice. Okay, so I'm going to mark this out. 12 minus 15. Okay, I can't do that. 12, I can't have 12 and take 15 away, so I have to borrow. 7 becomes a 6. All right, so I'm going to take it and I'm going to move it over. My denominator is 20. So that means for me to take this 1 from here and make it into a whole number as a fraction, it has to be 20 over 20. The denominators have to all be the same, which means the numerator also has to be the same. All right, 20 plus 12 is 32. The denominator is 20. I'm not doing anything to this fraction except moving it over. 15 over 20. And then you can cross everything out because this is all I have left to worry about. Okay. 32 minus 15 is 17, right? Yeah. With a denominator of 20. 17 doesn't go into 20. No other factors for 17, so we're done with that. Now, the only thing I have left to do is look at my whole numbers. 6 minus 4. If I have 6 and I take 4 away, I have 2 left. So 2 and 17/20. All right, last one. 5 minus 2 1/2. Well, here's what we have to do for this one. I don't have a fraction to subtract from, but I cannot, you hear me? Cannot just subtract the whole numbers. Here's what happens. This is the wrong way, the no-no. If you were to just bring this down, and 5 minus 2 is 3, this is what you would get. That's wrong, okay? And here's why. I don't have a fraction here. So I have to do what we've been doing all along and borrow. So 5 becomes 4, and then the denominator is already 2, so I'm going to put 2 over 2. Okay? Now, 2 minus 1 is 1. The denominator is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. This is the correct answer. Okay, do you see 3 1/2, 2 1/2? This one is the correct answer. Now, let me show you a little trick. Okay, you need to know how to subtract and borrow and regroup, but you can also turn it into a improper fraction. Okay, if you remember to turn a mixed number into an improper fraction, we did the Texas popcorn, right? Where we multiply the whole number times the denominator, and then add the whole number, or add the answer, 12 plus 1, and get 13, and the denominator stays the same. Then we do the same thing for this one. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 5 is 11. The denominator is 6. Okay, so all I did was turn them in from mixed numbers into improper fractions. Now I'm going to find a common denominator, which is 6. 11 over 6 equals 11 over 6. That one stayed the same. 3 equals 6 when I multiply it by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 13 times 2. 26. And now all you have to do is subtract 26 minus 11, and you get 15 over 6, which is improper. So we're going to top in, bottom out. 6 will go into 15 2 times. 15 minus 12 is 3. 3 becomes the numerator. 6 is the denominator. So that equals 2 and 3, 6. That can be reduced because 3 goes into 6. So I'm going to divide by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So it's just as involved, but you don't have to borrow. So we're going to learn both ways because I want to make sure that you understand. So let's look at another one. 7 2/5. 2 1/2. Okay. 7 times 5 is 35. 35 plus 2 is 37. The denominator stays 5. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. Denominator stays 2. Okay, remember we multiply the denominator times the whole number, get our product, and add it to the numerator. Denominator times the whole number, get our product, add it to the numerator. Denominator stays the same. All right, so make equivalent fractions just like we've been doing by finding the LCM, which in this case is 10. 5 will go into 10 when I multiply it by 2. So then 37 times 2, 74. 2 equals to 10 when I multiply it by 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, so then we have to subtract 74 minus 25. And you get 49 over 10, which is improper. So 49 divided by 10. 10 will go into 49 4 times, which is 40, with 9 left over. So that's 9 out of 10. So 49 over 10 equals 4 and 9/10. Okay, lots of work. Had to change a mixed number to an improper fraction. Had to make equivalent fractions by finding the LCM. Then I had to subtract. Then I had to typo. Or we could have done it like we did the original way. Okay, so we're going to learn both ways. So this is your assignment for today. And then we'll have a short little worksheet. Okay? Have a good one.